Have you ever wondered why some women seem to push men away without even realizing it? No dramatic fights, no obvious red flags, not even seeming like they're doing anything wrong. Or perhaps they embody what society calls caring too much or being too invested. The answer isn't what most relationship advice tells you. It's not about playing hard to get. It's not about being more mysterious. And it's definitely not about changing who you are. It lies in something more uncomfortable, more unsettling. Something that deconstructs everything we were taught about feminine energy and how it affects masculine psychology. Because when a woman unconsciously displays certain behaviors, she isn't trying to push him away. She's actually trying to pull him closer. She's operating from feminine patterns that feel natural to her, but trigger something primal in masculine psychology. And that kind of unconscious behavior, that journey into feminine anxiety disguised as love, doesn't come with awareness, intention, or malice. It comes with desperation, with control, and a kind of fear most women don't even recognize in themselves. No, she's not being manipulative on purpose. She's being triggered. She's not trying to suffocate him. She's drowning in her own insecurity. She just got activated by something deeper than conscious choice. There's something profoundly misunderstood about feminine behaviors that repel masculine energy because they shatter the logic of more love equals better results and dismantle the myth that caring harder creates deeper connection, and it reveals a brutal truth. Most women don't know when their feminine energy is in its shadow state, and most men can't explain why certain behaviors make them want to run, even when they love the woman displaying them. Carl Jung once said, "Everything we don't make conscious becomes our fate," and many of these repelling behaviors are actually manifestations of the feminine shadow, the unconscious aspects of femininity that emerge when a woman feels unsafe, unloved, or uncertain about her place in a man's life. They don't intend to push. They unconsciously pursue. They don't mean to control. They desperately try to secure. They're operating from ancient feminine survival patterns that once worked in different contexts, but backfire in modern relationships. They're less interested in authentic connection and more in eliminating the anxiety that comes with uncertainty, with not knowing where they stand. And that creates a paradox. Because while these women desperately want closeness, their shadow behaviors create the exact opposite: distance, withdrawal, and masculine shutdown. Men operate on energetic frequencies. When feminine energy feels heavy, demanding, or controlling, it triggers their need to preserve their autonomy, their sense of self. And maybe that's why these behaviors are so devastating. They come from love, but create disconnection. They aim for security, but generate insecurity. But what many still don't understand is that behind these repelling behaviors is a woman who's terrified of losing what she's trying so hard to keep. She doesn't want to push him away, but her nervous system is convinced that relaxing her grip means losing him entirely. She's not trying to be difficult. She's trying to survive what feels like emotional life or death. Maybe you don't recognize these patterns right now. Maybe you think they're just signs of a caring, invested woman. But deep down, way deep down, there's a recognition inside you, a quiet knowing that whispers when you try to ignore it. What if the very behaviors you think show love are actually pushing love away? The first behavior that makes a man pull away immediately is what I call emotional pursuit. It's the unconscious pattern of chasing his emotions, his attention, his reassurance, with an intensity that feels suffocating to masculine energy. Carl Jung spoke about the anima and animus, the feminine and masculine energies within each person. When the feminine anima becomes wounded, it often manifests as emotional hunger that can never be satisfied from the outside. This woman doesn't just want to connect. She needs to know exactly how he feels, exactly where she stands, exactly what he's thinking at all times. And there, in that desperate need for emotional transparency, she begins to pursue what naturally wants to come to her. Her pursuit didn't come from manipulation, but from a deep wound that tells her love will disappear if she's not vigilantly monitoring and managing it. She doesn't trust love to exist without her constant attention to it. This woman knows abandonment. She's felt the terror of someone she loved pulling away. She's experienced the anxiety of not knowing if she matters. But instead of healing that wound, she tries to prevent it from happening again by controlling the very thing that can't be controlled, another person's feelings. What she doesn't realize is that emotional pursuit triggers a man's deepest fear, losing himself in someone else's emotional needs. When she chases his feelings, she accidentally teaches him that his emotional space, what you're seeing, isn't love, it's anxiety, masquerading as love, and anxiety in relationships creates more anxiety, not more connection. She doesn't want to be needy. She wants to feel secure. She's not trying to be overwhelming. She's trying to manage her own overwhelm by controlling his emotional availability. So maybe that's why emotional pursuit backfires so completely, because she's trying to get security from someone who feels increasingly unsafe with her emotional intensity. She doesn't understand that the more she chases emotional reassurance, the less authentic any reassurance he gives becomes. You can't pursue someone into loving you more. You can only pursue them into loving you less authentically. This creates panic in women who recognize this pattern and frustration in men who feel emotionally hunted. The woman feels like she's showing love. The man feels like he's being consumed by someone else's anxiety. She doesn't want to consume anyone. She wants to be chosen consistently, but until she heals the wound that makes consistency feel impossible without constant proof, she remains emotionally pursuing, not by choice, but out of survival programming. The second behavior that immediately repels masculine energy is over-functioning. When a woman unconsciously begins to mother, manage, or micromanage a man's life, his decisions, or his emotional state, Jung believed that every man carries his mother wound, and when a woman steps into the maternal role, it triggers his need to individuate, to separate, to prove his independence. This woman doesn't mean to become his mother. She genuinely believes she's being helpful, supportive, caring. But there's a fine line between supporting a man and suffocating him with solutions he didn't ask for. When she overfunctions, she accidentally communicates that she doesn't trust his ability to handle his own life. She doesn't trust him to make good decisions, manage his problems, or figure things out on his own. The overfunctioning woman sees a problem and immediately jumps in to fix it. She sees him struggling and can't resist offering advice, solutions, or taking over entirely. What feels like love to her feels like a loss of autonomy to him. But this woman isn't trying to control anyone. She's trying to feel needed, valuable, irreplaceable. Her nervous system equates usefulness with worthiness, being needed with being loved. Overfunctioning often comes from childhood patterns where a woman learned that her value came from what she could do for others, not who she was. She learned to earn love through service, through fixing, through managing others. The more she mothers him, the more he either rebels against her or becomes dependent on her, neither of which creates the partnership she actually wants. What most women don't realize is that overfunctioning is often a form of control disguised as care. It's the shadow feminine trying to manage outcomes by managing the other person. Jung taught that we often do to others what we wish someone would do for us. The overfunctioning woman often wishes someone would care for her the way she cares for everyone else. But by overgiving, she trains people to under-receive her. A man doesn't want to be your child, he wants to be your equal. He doesn't want you to solve his problems. He wants you to trust that he can solve them himself. He doesn't need you to manage his life. He needs you to witness his capability. When you overfunction, you rob him of the opportunity to show up for you. You rob him of the satisfaction of solving his own problems. You rob him of the masculine pleasure of being competent in his own life. The woman who has healed this pattern knows the difference between supporting and suffocating, between helping and helicoptering, between caring and controlling. She offers her gifts without forcing them. She shares her wisdom without insisting on it. The third behavior that makes men pull away immediately is emotional volatility. It's the pattern of having dramatic emotional reactions that feel unpredictable, unsafe, or even manipulative to masculine energy. Carl Jung spoke about the importance of containing emotions rather than being possessed by them. When a woman hasn't learned to regulate her emotional responses, it creates an energetic environment that feels chaotic to masculine psychology. This doesn't mean suppressing emotions or becoming emotionally numb. It means the difference between feeling your emotions and being hijacked by them, between expressing feelings and exploding with them. The emotionally volatile woman's feelings are valid, but her expression of them often creates more problems than it solves. She might scream when she feels unheard, threaten to leave when she feels disconnected, or create drama when she feels ignored. What she doesn't understand is that emotional volatility triggers a man's fight or flight response. When he can't predict what will set her off, when he feels like he's walking on eggshells, his nervous system starts to associate her presence with danger. This woman isn't trying to be difficult. She's expressing emotions she was never taught how to regulate. She's operating from a nervous system that learned early that big emotions equals attention, that drama creates connection, that volatility ensures she won't be ignored. Emotional volatility often stems from childhood, where a woman learned that calm emotions were invisible emotions. Maybe she grew up in a home where only the loudest voice was heard, where silence was dismissed, and drama was rewarded. Or perhaps she spent years suppressing her emotions, until they exploded in unpredictable, uncontrollable ways. Sometimes volatility is the pendulum swing from years of emotional suppression. Jung believed that what we repress in consciousness becomes exaggerated in the unconscious. The woman who spent years being nice, easygoing, accommodating, might one day erupt with emotions that feel foreign, even to her. But here's what creates the real damage. Emotional volatility trains a man to manage your emotions instead of connecting with you authentically. He becomes focused on keeping you calm, on predicting your reactions, on preventing the next explosion. He can't relax into genuine intimacy because he's too busy monitoring your mood. The woman who has healed this pattern has learned to feel deeply without drowning others in her emotions. She can express her needs without creating emergencies. She can share her feelings without making them everyone else's responsibility. Now, recognizing these patterns isn't about shaming the feminine or making women wrong for having needs. It's about understanding how unconscious, feminine energy can accidentally repel the very love it's trying to secure. Jung taught that consciousness is the beginning of transformation. When a woman becomes aware of her shadow patterns, she can begin to choose different responses, different ways of expressing her feminine energy that attract rather than repel. The conscious feminine doesn't pursue emotional reassurance. She creates emotional safety. She doesn't overfunction. She offers her gifts without attachment to how they're received. She doesn't express emotions with volatility. She shares them responsibly. Conscious feminine energy is magnetic because it feels safe to masculine energy. It's not demanding, not controlling, not unpredictable. It's powerful, authentic, and trustworthy. This doesn't mean becoming passive or suppressing your needs. It means expressing your needs in ways that invite connection rather than create resistance. It means understanding that how you ask for something is just as important as what you're asking for. The woman operating from conscious feminine energy doesn't chase. She allows herself to be pursued. She doesn't control. She influences through her presence. She doesn't explode. She expresses with intention. This transformation isn't about becoming someone else. It's about becoming the most conscious version of yourself. It's about healing the...
So, how do you actually transform these patterns? How do you move from unconscious, repelling behaviors to conscious, magnetic energy? First, develop emotional self-awareness. Start noticing when you feel the urge to emotionally pursue, overfunction, or react dramatically. What's happening in your body? What story is your mind telling? What wound is being triggered? Second, practice emotional self-regulation. This doesn't mean suppressing your feelings. It means creating space between feeling and reaction. Breathe before you respond. Ask yourself, is this reaction serving connection or serving my anxiety? Third, learn to trust masculine energy. Stop trying to manage, fix, or control his process. Trust that he can handle his own life. Your trust is more supportive than any solution you could offer. Fourth, develop secure attachment within yourself. The more secure you feel in your own worth, the less you'll need validation, reassurance, or control. Fifth, practice conscious communication. Instead of chasing his emotions, share your own. Instead of fixing his problems, express your needs. Instead of reacting dramatically, respond intentionally. Masculine energy is attracted to feminine energy that feels safe, authentic, and whole. When you heal the wounds that drive unconscious patterns, you naturally become more magnetic. Not because you're trying, but because you're being authentically yourself. The woman who has integrated these lessons doesn't lose her feminine essence. She embodies it more consciously. She's still emotional, but she's emotionally intelligent. She's still caring, but she's not caretaking. She's still expressive, but she's not explosive. Carl Jung wrote about individuation, the process of becoming who you really are, beneath the unconscious patterns and social conditioning. For women, this often means reclaiming healthy feminine energy that's been distorted by wounds and fears. The magnetic feminine feels safe to be around Because she's not trying to get anything from you. She's not emotionally pursuing. She's not overfunctioning. She's not creating drama. She's simply being authentically herself and trusting that genuine connection will emerge from that place. This woman doesn't need to chase love because she embodies lovability. She doesn't need to control outcomes because she trusts the process. She doesn't need to react dramatically because she feels secure in her own worth. When you operate from this space, you don't have to worry about pushing men away because you naturally draw the right ones toward you.
That is the journey of the awakened feminine, transforming unconscious patterns that repel into conscious energy that magnetizes. The world needs women who are willing to look at their shadow patterns, to heal the wounds that drive unconscious behaviors, to choose love over fear in their daily interactions. When you stop emotionally pursuing and start emotionally attracting, everything changes. When you stop overfunctioning and start trusting, relationships transform. When you stop reacting dramatically and start responding consciously, love becomes possible in ways you never imagined. The love that comes to the healed feminine isn't desperate, it isn't dramatic, it's secure and sustainable. It doesn't require constant management or control because it's built on authentic connection, not unconscious patterns. This woman doesn't push love away because she's learned to draw it toward her naturally. She doesn't create distance because she's mastered the art of intimacy. She doesn't trigger masculine withdrawal because she embodies the feminine energy that makes men want to move closer. If this message revealed patterns you recognize in yourself, don't judge them. Heal them. Don't shame yourself for unconscious behaviors. Become conscious of them. Don't try to fix everything at once. Choose one pattern and begin there. The journey from unconscious to conscious feminine energy is one of the most important transformations a woman can make. It affects not just your romantic relationships, but every relationship in your life. If this video helped you see something you needed to see, share it with another woman who's ready for this level of awareness. Like it, comment your insights, and subscribe for more deep dives into the psychology of love and relationships, because consciousness is contagious. When one woman heals these patterns, she gives others permission to heal too. And when women embody conscious feminine energy, the world becomes more beautiful, more loving, more connected. Your healing matters. Your consciousness matters. Your transformation into magnetic feminine energy matters more than you know.